I recently saw the film Gladiator, starring Russell Crowe.
I heard about that movie. What's it about?
Gladiators.
Way to be descriptive. I always wondered why Rome had gladiators.
They had gladiators to please the people.
Wait, hold your horses. Were the people not happy?
Yeah, and the government had a hard time making sure their mood didn't get even worse. As a matter of fact, that's part of why Rome declined and fell.
I wouldn't say that it fell. It transformed.
Well, I think it fell.
But it's not like Rome disappeared in a night.
No, but the change was so significant that it may be more appropriate. It was no longer at its height. Take a look at their government, for example.
The empire was still there.
But it was appropriated by the barbarians who took over the place and replaced parts of it with their own culture.
Again, I don't agree with your phrasing. I think integrating is a better way of putting it. Take, for example, how barbarians joined the Roman army with an increasing frequency. It's like adding sprinkles to ice cream. It adds to the ice cream, it doesn't destroy it.
You could also say that it's like adding vanilla to chocolate ice cream. The vanilla is no longer just vanilla. It's some strange abomination.
I like chocolate and vanilla.
Good for you. See, the barbarians added to society, giving them more workers.
Even then, they were still losing workers. They stopped expanding, which meant less slaves, which in turn meant less money. And you have to at least admit that the barbarians were an external problem, if not an internal one. I mean, they had to constantly defend against barbarian sects.
That's not anything new. Rome was founded on the constant defense of their borders.
But the Persians and Greeks or any other enemy of Rome's never deposed the emperor like the barbarians did. What's an empire without an emperor?
A transformed empire.
A fallen empire. One that was rapidly decreasing in size.
Not the whole empire.
Rome's population was, not only in citizens, but in slaves as well. And less slaves means less money, and less money means less Rome.
But Rome's empire was enormous. Even if it diminished somewhat in the size, it would only go from enormous to huge.
Essentially half of Rome was gone, the western half.
It wasn't gone. People still identified as Roman. How else do you explain the continuation of Roman ideals and customs?
What proof do you have of that?
The numerous European countries who now speak Romance languages? Based on that, you might even argue that Roman Empire lasts today.
Okay, remnants of Roman culture still remain today, I'll give you that much.
Exactly. And what's an empire without its culture, customs, and common people?
An empire stops being an empire when the power is gone.
That's where we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Well, we're obviously getting nowhere with this discussion.
Agreed.
Wait, I'd like to know how Rome fell.
Transformed.
Whatever. What happened to Rome in the first place?
Ooh, I know this one.
Do you? It's not exactly a question with a simple answer.
Yeah, I'll agree with him on that one. Several factors played into Rome's transformation.
Decline and fall.
Yeah, that's true. There were economic factors as well as
Socio-political factors.
And several external factors as well.
all of which are interconnected.
Like what?
Well, you go first.
No, it's fine, you go.
No, I insist.
I'm perfectly okay with...
I'll go first.
Rude.
Well, to start with, Rome's population was falling.
Why?
I'm getting to that. Let me finish. As I was saying, Rome's population was falling. There are multiple reasons for this, the first being disease. People were just dying left and right. It's hard to have a city without people in it.
I'm willing to believe that disease did a lot of damage, but it can't have done so much that the empire collapsed, right?
People were also just up and leaving.
Why?
The military presence wasn't as strong anymore, and that was the main reason for people being there. Trade also decreased, which is a reason for people staying in cities in the first place, as well as a source of income for merchants.
Why? I thought you said before that the government was doing everything it could to please the people.
They were, but that didn't last. It's hard to please the people when the emperors are egomaniacs.
Plus, there was a new emperor every year or so.
Why? Did they just keep giving up?
No, they were constantly being murdered.
Oh.
What was wrong with them?
Who?
The emperors. You said they were egomaniacs?
Oh yeah, well that was kind of a prerequisite for being an emperor, an ego to fit an empire.
They can't have been all that bad, right? Or else the empire would never have lasted as long as it did.
Well, there was one guy called Diocletian. He tried solving a bunch of problems through making things like military reforms.
Why would he need to do that? Was the army not strong enough?
They were, and that was the problem. While a strong army is good when they're on your side, if they turn against you, that strength becomes bad.
But if Rome was an empire by then, why was there still a need for an army in the first place? Hadn't they conquered anyone that challenged them?
I know this one. It was because of the barbarians.
Like I said before, why didn't they just conquer the barbarian lands like they did with the other places they had beaten?
Rome had stopped their expansion by then. That and the fact that barbarians didn't really have a singular piece of land to conquer since they moved around a lot.
So Rome must have been fairly wealthy to have been so desirable to the barbarians, right?
No, not necessarily. For example, like Umar mentioned, the population was decreasing. Less people meant less jobs, which meant less money.
You said before that people left because trade was decreasing. Why was it decreasing in the first place?
Romans were spoiled brats. They wanted every commodity they could get, especially foreign ones, which they spent way too much money on.
Did the government try to solve it?
Yeah, but that didn't work out too well either. They taxed the people like any normal government would. But the constant taxing made the currency value drop, which wrecked the economy even more.
I'm betting the people probably didn't react well to that.
Nope. Soldiers demanded more money, which called for even more taxation.
Wow, that's unfortunate. I almost feel sorry for Rome.
You realize Rome's not a person, right?
That doesn't mean I can't feel sorry. Does every empire go through that?
To an extent.
Yeah, empires tend to go through similar downfalls.
For example?
Well, empires are just made to fall. Absolute rule over a large expanse and a large population is rarely going to make people happy.
That's why the Galactic Empire had stormtroopers. Okay, but I have somewhat of a valid point, right? The people weren't happy, so a lot of empires increased their military to deal with that.
Including some real empires. Persia had civil wars left and right in their enormous empire, but they were smart enough to appeal to the people by letting them keep their traditions. China didn't take similar actions, and as a result, peasants often rebelled.
It's a little ironic when you think about it.
How so?
Well, they would strengthen their army, but those same officers they hired to stop the rebellion would often abuse their power and lead the rebellions.
Did that happen with Persia and China?
With China, yes. But with Persia, it was the provincial governors that were more of the issue.
And on top of that, they still needed all of those powerful figures to help fend off outside invaders.
And the strong ones just kept beating on the figurative walls of the empire mercilessly, and that's why they fell.
Well, that's not entirely true. The walls were already weakened from all the stuff we've been talking about. Successful invaders were more lucky opportunists than great strategists.
I'm assuming China and Persia had their own equivalents to barbarian invaders.
Yeah, Persia had to deal with Rome knocking on the door, as well as the Muslims who eventually conquered them. China had their own issues with the Huns and Mongols, but you've seen Mulan, so you probably already know about that.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like the Huns were very merciful invaders.
No, but some invaders integrated into society, adding to the mix of their own cultures and ideals.
Some more irony there, considering conflicting religious and philosophical ideals were often a contributing factor in bringing down empires. Several religions became popularized through the conquering or integration of empires.
Like Christianity.
Or Islam.
Or Judaism.
Or ideologies like Taoism?
Or Jediism.
That's it, I'm done.
Yup.
Bye.
Wait for me!
An empire is like the average uni student sanity. It will inevitably break down and crumble.
The end.
Finally.